you doing?
Hi, guys. I hope everybody is doing well today. Everybody I know on the eastern seaboard is bracing for a major winter storm. I don't know that we're going to see much of that, but I know that it has already started snowing around the Milwaukee and the Chicago areas. So keep
No.
your hat on, keep your stick on the ice, make sure you got your storm chips, and brace yourself, Effie. It's so nice to have everybody back after the Christmas holidays. It is so nice just to be back playing in the studio and not scrambling to get so much done in such a period of time. The holidays, it doesn't seem to matter what you have planned. Everything just seems to be such a rush at times. And so even though we don't intend it to be, it certainly seemed to end up being a very busy holiday season. I have a couple of things of news to impart. Orders have been shipping out like crazy. Stuff that was ordered prior to the holiday. Things we had so many postage delays and stuff coming in, delays and stuff going out. So we are prioritizing all of the orders prior to the holiday. So everything, if you haven't seen a shipping confirmation yet, it is coming. We do them in batches. So when we get 15 or 20 packed up and out the door. They go out in batches. So if you haven't seen one, I promise you it's on its way. We're just getting them all sorted out. I had a couple of questions this morning in reference to the
Really nice.
Feliz Navidad patterns, the ones that go on that 6x12 patterns. Now, my patterns all say the line drawings are actual size, and they are. If you print those larger size patterns on an 8.5x14 on legal size, they will print actual size. So just an FYI, if it's on a surface that's 12 inches, then you have to print your line drawing on something larger than 12 inches. So 8.5 by legal. I try to keep it within legal or in standard format. So if the surface is 12 inches, then it's going to go on to a larger sheet of paper to get it actual size. But I don't like people having to adjust and make measurements and figure out how much they have to enlarge or reduce something. So I always try to make them actual size. And that's the only thing that you have to remember. If it's on a 12-inch surface, it's going to be on an 8.5x14. So hopefully that's helpful. I have started adding that instruction into the patterns. I know that it's not always obvious, so I'm going to start putting it in there just to make things a little bit easier for everybody. I'm so confused. This is the first day back and I can't remember my process. Hi, baby. So this is the puppy.
She's a little bigger now.
A little bigger. She's pushing 40 pounds now. And she doesn't like being held. That's Sky Jail. It's Sky Jail, that's why. And you get nibbled for that.
And I get nibbled.
So that's Miss Mays in her all of 40 pounds, almost 40 pounds. She's growing like a weed. And eats. Holy Moses. Eats. Child, that dog is hollow.
Yeah.
But that's okay. She's a happy, healthy pup. So we're having our hands full. Renee and I have not had an opportunity to get out to the shelter, primarily due to weather. We've had storms. And we've kind of been tied up between weather and damages at the gallery because he's had some issues to contend with there at work. And we've had issues to contend with here. We had 2 major storms over the holidays and we had part of our roof taken off. So we, have been dealing with a lot of different things around here. And we're not the only ones. Actually, for the most part, we got off much easier than a lot of folks did. So, not really complaining. But it has managed to throw a wrench into a whole bunch of things because the shelter also took some damage during the holidays, and so they have been very limited as to what they can do right now. So our plan is for the following week coming up is to take a whole bunch of stuff and a check out to the local shelter. Things just have not fallen into place in the last few weeks. But I am going to give you a final tally, though, because we finally have one. Facebook stars and whatnot came through. this week, and the amount for that was just slightly over $70, which was more than I was anticipating. So it's great. So our final tally was $5,456.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was our final tally, just so that everybody knows. So we were quite excited about that. So with a little bit of luck, we're going to get out to the shelter this week and deliver a whole bunch of goodies and some monies to hopefully help them recover some from storm damage, etc. Because they've kind of had their hands full. So like everybody here. So all is good, all is well. We're on our the Epiphany today.
The Epiphany?
The Epiphany. So interesting. It's a Ukrainian New Year. There's a number of religious holidays, but the Epiphany usually relates to the arrival of the three kings. So at least that's what I was always taught.
A little late.
They didn't arrive on his birthday.
It's true.
That's always what I've believed. It was the arrival of the three kings. So I know in some places that's what they call it, the Day of the Three Kings. In Germany, they refer to it as the Dreikönig, the Three Kings Day. So anyway, we're going to be painting Simplify.
Really, Jessica?
What's that?
Let's keep it going for 2024 and donated $20.
Oh, nice. Thank you, Jess.
Jessica. We haven't even decided on which fundraiser or even if we are going to. So we'll put $20 aside for whatever we choose to do.
There we go. So today, everybody's sort of been tossing this idea of their word for the year around. I think mine I decided on was going to be simplify. Just simplify a whole bunch of things, So that was my word for this year. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to do simplify. And what could be simpler than just the modest daisy? And I was cleaning up the studio in my effort to simplify. And I came across a coffee cup that says hug in a mug. And it replicates one of those old enamelware.
I wonder where you got that idea. It has nothing to do with a mug that I gave you.
No, nothing whatsoever. So it replicates one of those old enamelware mugs from back in the day. And I really liked the look of it, sort of that chipped out enamel with a little bit of rust look. And I appreciated it. So I took a photograph of the mug and then I utilized the shape to create this piece. And so we're going to do a little bit of a rust effect today. We're going to play with paint and some spatter. And I used some dimensional bees, but the pattern has both. You can use either one. Today, I think I'm just going to paint the bees on, but we've got the little wooden bees on the other one. Let me show it to you if you haven't seen it. It's a fun little piece. It's not difficult to paint. I like these little signages, little reminders to just sort of take a breath. And the color palette is very relaxed. It's very soft and I don't know, there's just something very calming about this particular color palette. So we're going to paint Simplify. And I did have one thing I have to do. I have been getting a ton of Happy Mail. I went to the mailbox yesterday and there was half a dozen cards, Christmas cards and notes and whatnot. And of course I left them upstairs. I should have brought them down, but I left them upstairs. But in and amongst that were a couple of parcels. And I have to show you this. This is absolutely gorgeous. This beautiful egg. Isn't that gorgeous? Such a pretty ornament. It's a wooden egg. I think it's supposed to be a Christmas light based on the shape, but beautifully painted. I love the color palette. This margarita green and those beautiful blues, Bahama blues and teals, mermaid tail, etc. And it was sent to me by Paula McCoy. Absolutely beautiful ornament. This one goes in my treasure trove with all of my other much loved and appreciated painted pieces. It is absolutely beautiful, and I can't thank you enough. It was just a wonderful thing to find in my mail yesterday, along with all of those wonderful cards. So thank you so much. I've been inundated this holiday season with hand-painted ornaments and Christmas cards and notes, and greatly appreciated to all of you. Thank you so much. So before I start leaking,
no leaking.
Before I start leaking, and before we start painting, we're going to talk about the giveaways for today. So we have a pattern, and then we have 3 craft gasm bags to give away.
You want to show one? Or?
Sure.
Oh.
And there's stencils. There's a bunch of goodies in them, but I'll show you the craft gasm. Yeah. So we have these craft gasm bags, and we've put some really good little goodies in here. We have some wonderful little stuff from Tombow USA. We have stuff from, of course, from me. And from Dynasty Brush, there is a gorgeous 5-brush set of Dynasty faux squirrel brushes in here. So we have 3 of those to give away today. Somebody made a point the other day that she would be happy to have a craft gasm bag. In fact, she'd be happy to have any kind of a gasm. So, okay. We'll
that escalated.
Try to make that happen. We'll send a craft gasm bag.
We'll send a craft gasm bag. I don't think we can send anything else.
No. I don't think Canada Post would allow it.
Actually, no.
No. Not unless it's wrapped in brown paper. I'm not doing that.
Discreet packaging comes to mind.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm having a hot flash. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. How come I'm not getting YouTube chat now?
Oh, goodness.
Ooh, that's a good start for your first Saturday back.
Oh, yeah?
You haven't even started painting and you already got 205 people watching.
Nice. So that wheel's going to be loaded.
Yes.
And I also have a copy of one of my newest patterns on there, too. The Christmas Roses. There's going to be one of those in there as well. And there's a stencil courtesy of Stencil Studio. So, yeah, we have lots of goodies to give away today. So in order to get your name on the wheel, all you have to do is like the stream, like the Facebook page, follow the Facebook page if you don't already, and hit the big red subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Any one of those that puts your name on the big wheel of names. And by all means, join the chat. Hop in on Facebook or on YouTube. And if you have a question, don't hesitate to ask. If I don't see your question, just bear with me. Renee's pretty good about catching them. And if I
won't be here because I got to take.
He's got to take the alligator out.
Yeah, I got to do some training with her, and training's the fun part. It's the draining the energy is the hard part.
Yeah. So, like I said, if you have a question, don't hesitate to put it in either the YouTube chat, or post it as a question on YouTube, or post it in the Facebook feed. I usually go back and I read all of the comments and questions just to make sure I haven't missed anybody. So if you have a question, don't hesitate to ask. The other option is if you go to my website, we have this nifty little feature on there now. There's a little speech bubble in the lower right hand corner. It will ask you if you have a question. You just say yes, and then immediately just put your question in, and we usually get back to you within the hour. We do monitor it fairly carefully, so usually within the hour we can get back to you with an answer to your question. So
really, puppy,
I'm more than happy to answer your questions. So having said all of that, if you guys are ready to get started on Simplify, so am I.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I still got the Christmas stuff going on here. Yeah, that blue comes up. It's doing weird things with the color sensor for some reason.
Yeah.
Comes up like gray.
Yeah, dark gray. It's showing on camera as a dark blue.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Oh. Not here.
So we're going to be working with an 8x10 surface. It can be anything. It can be an art panel, what do you call it? Those art canvas panels. It can be a canvas itself. This one is just a 1/8 sheet of MDF, or you can use the art panels, these cradles that you can get at Michael's or any craft store. So you don't need to have anything fancy for it. And if you really would prefer, you could also do this in a journal page very easily. So the background for this one is very straightforward. I chose to do something as simple as possible.
I'll be back in a bit.
For obvious reasons. The design is called Simplify, so that's what I wanted to do. The other thing I really like is sort of this vintage appearance, this distressed country look, which was in keeping with that mug. So I opted for something equally vintage and equally as simple, and chose this 1/2-inch check stencil. I like the idea of simplifying things. I don't believe things need to be so complex. I mean, our everyday lives are complex as it is. So I think, why make things even more complex when we don't have to? So I'm using a color called Cobblestone, which is sort of this, I'm going to call this mud color. So that's essentially what it is. I'm using a 1/2-inch Stencil Pro stencil. Now, we don't want this to be fully opaque, so I'm just using a light application. These checks do not have to be perfect. They don't have to be solid. If you miss a spot, that's okay. So neatness doesn't count for this. Perfection is to be avoided at all costs. So I like the fact that these checks, none of them are the same opacity, none of them are the same at all. They can be incomplete and it's fine. So we're going to cover the whole surface like this. So you can see theirs are not perfect. Some of them are really soft and almost not there. And I'm going to align the stencil and tape it in place, and then I'm going to repeat that. And I'm going to continue to do this until I have the whole surface covered. I'd like a check. I'm fond of a checkerboard look. I'm also fond of this sort of distressed vintage appearance. I'm a big fan of all things vintage. I love vintage glass. I love vintage farmhouse look. I like all of it. So I'm going to tape that one in place, and I'm just going to continue until the whole surface is covered. And as I said, this does not have to be perfect. I mean, these checks can be incomplete. I mean, you can skip some if you want to. The idea is to create this very distressed look in the background. So a little bit of color, a lot of color, it doesn't matter. The more perfect they are, I think the more harsh this background is, and it looks very chunky. If you keep it that light and more distressed appearance, it just gives the whole piece a lighter feel. The more opaque things are, the more weighty they are. So I like to keep things light. And don't forget, circular fashion, change directions frequently. That brush should be just about dry. If you've got too much paint in the brush, it's going to look very heavy-handed. I have a couple of spots where I had a little too much paint, but I think it's okay. It didn't bleed under, I don't think. There we go. Almost done. So, no bleeding. So when you get to the ends, this is pretty simple. You just line everything up the best you can. Even in this particular case, they don't have to be perfect. There we go. I'm a fan. There's just something about that checkerboard that just screams country. Simplicity. And I love all things simple. So there we have it. A simple checkerboard pattern. None of them are perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And I like it that way. So I'll wipe off the excess dust. Now I have one already prepped. I just wanted to show you that when you're doing this, you do not need to have all of these perfectly opaque checkerboards. It'll actually make your life a lot harder if they're too opaque. So I'm going to set this one aside. And I'm going to grab the one I've already prepped because we're going to do a little bit of work. So here is mine. See, I have my line drawing on, so I'm going to take some sandpaper and I'm going to distress my checkerboard. And I like to wear through the paint at the edges a little bit and expose that wooden edge. I'm going to come over here, do it on this side. And make sure that you wear down the corners a little bit. And yes, I go right through to the wood. There we go. Wear down those corners. The reason I do this is it opens up that wood a little bit so that when I put the antiquing over top of it, this bit of wood here takes on the color that I'm using. So it just makes things a little more authentic, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So I'm going to grab a piece of shop towel. I can get my hands on a piece. And I'm going to wipe off the dust because there's always dust. There we go. And I'm going to take a little bit of water, just a little, and I'm going to wipe off some of that dust. And you can see how I've distressed that little bit of water. You can see where I've distressed through. If I go vertically, any little scratches and gouges that go through the paint, all go in one direction. It just gives it a much nicer finished look. Now, I have a line drawing on there already. And surprisingly enough, I did not sand it all off. So I'm gonna dry this real quick. And then we're going to age this a little. And I'm going to do that with a little bit of asphaltum. I'm going to say hello to a few people before I forget, because here's Cindy Interline, and Carol Anthony, Kathy Cantor, Carolyn Swayze, and Dolores from Buffalo, and Rosemary Thigpen. Good morning, Heidi Allison. How are you, dear? And Bonnie Clock, and Ann Easterling. Good heavens, everybody's here today. And Jerry Zopa. And Vicky Bunker. I'm with you on the checkerboard thing. I like my checkerboard. And Denise Chavez. Good heavens. It's nice to see you guys all here. We had an eventful Christmas season. That's the only word I can use to describe it. It's been eventful. I don't know if any of you, well, obviously some of you more experience with dealing with insurance companies than I do. So dealing with an insurance company over the holidays is something else. So we're going to use a little bit of asphaltum. I'm going to move this a little closer. Asphaltum. And a little piece of shop towel. And we're going to age the edges. This is my favorite way to apply color. Brushes are one thing, but sometimes you just need to get your fingers dirty. So I like taking a little bit of asphaltum and I go all the way around the outside edge of this. Oof. It's a bit more than I needed. And that asphaltum settles into those areas that I just sanded off, and it just helps give this a nice aged appearance. And you don't have to be too worried about whether or not it's too heavy, because you're using a damp cloth or a damp shop towel to put color on. So if it gets to be a bit much, you can just wipe some of it off. And then you can blend it out a little bit. So I like that sort of agey, distressed appearance around the outside edge. So I'm going to dry this. And then we're going to use, we've got a fugly brush here somewhere. I'm going to use my fugly brush and a little bit of thinned asphaltum. And we're going to tone all of this. But I always like to have that darker outside edge first. So I've got my fugly brush. I'm going to thin out a little bit of that asphaltum. There we go. Just with a little bit of water. And I'm going to pull this color in the same direction that I did when I sanded it. So I'm going to go vertically. There's a method to my madness, I promise you. So because I've already got a dark edge and I brush more, that edge gets a little bit darker. And then applying this wash of color vertically follows any pattern that's already been created. So vertically works. And then I'm going to dry this and we are ready to start base coating our floral. Now I intentionally did not put the bees on just yet because I hadn't decided what I was doing with the bees. There we go. So we have our background nicely toned. Rather pleased with that. And we're going to get started on our piece. And we're going to use two colors right off the bat. And I know this is going to sound really strange, but we're going to use a little bit of either lush green or antique green. Either one will work. This one is almost empty. And we're also going to use a little bit of warm white. So first things first, I'm going to thin out a little bit of that antique green, lush green. And we're going to put a wash right here. Just a wash. Right above the edge of that mug. And in behind those flowers. Nothing fancy. It's just a wash, thin wash of that green. And we're going to dry that. Make sure my brush is nice and clean. And then we're going to take some warm white and thin that out. It's going to be very transparent. So we're going to thin out some warm white. We're just creating a wash. And this is where it's going. We're going to put this wash of thin warm white in behind the mug and above that table line. Right there. It is not perfect and it's not fancy, just a little bit back there, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So just above that horizon line, like so. There we are. So that little bit of white, and it is just a wash. Neatness doesn't count. It's just creating a little bit of light on the background and in behind our mug. So essentially, that's where the light is impacting the wall behind this piece. So it's a very light wash, nothing fancy, nothing perfect. Don't overthink it, just sort of slap it in there. That's it. So yes, I know it looks a bit like a dog's breakfast at this point, but that's okay. So I'm going to dry this. I promise you, this will work. And then we're going to base coat our mug. We need 2 colors for the mug. We're going to use warm white and lamp black. So we're going to start with the warm white. And I use just a little bit of the Jo Sonja's Fast Dry, that glaze. Hi, Debbie. No, unfortunately, DecoArt does not ship to Canada. We do have distributors. A Country Bear. The business itself was sold, but the Country Bear is still in business. And they stock the DecoArt Americana colors. If you want to check them out, they're at Creations Country Bear. So I'm using a coat of warm white. And I know I drive you guys nuts with this, that I don't often use more than 1 coat of anything. And I know some of you go, no way, got to do it in multiple coats. And that's fine. You do you. A lot of what I do creates visual texture. So when I'm putting down 1 coat, it's not just that I'm putting down 1 coat, it's how I put down that 1 coat. So I'm pulling this vertically. I tuck in and fill in some of those spaces, but then I apply the color vertically so that it's filling the space, but it creates a pattern. So if you'll notice, it creates some vertical lines in this, and it just, in the end, it works. And get around those petals a little bit. I'm not too worried about those leaves because I'm going to come back in and base coat them anyway, so there we are. So if you're looking for DecoArt products, there's a number of distributors. Country Bear is one of my favorites. Stockade, based in Ontario, they're in Guelph, Ontario, is another excellent resource if you're looking for it locally. One that goes unnoticed quite a bit for DecoArt Americana paints in particular is based in Alberta. And I just had one of those moments where it sort of left my head. If Karen Jones is watching, she will know what I'm talking about. There, I will post the link to it. My brain just shut off. I can't for the life of me think of the name of them. It's terrible. Especially considering that I order quite a bit. But there are a few decor distributors in Canada. You just have to look sometimes harder than it should be, but we do have a few. There we go. So I've almost got this mug done. And again, if you look at this, it's not a perfect base coat. And for our purposes in this particular piece, it doesn't need to be. So I'm going to grab a round brush and paint the handle of our mug. Almost there. This one it actually works up fairly quickly. Renee is off doing a training session with Maze right now. We're trying to keep that pup on a schedule. She's a handful, but she's such a sweetheart. This area has, there was a great many people here didn't even have power on Christmas because of the damage done by the storm that blew through here. So we had 2 storms, well, 4 actually, back to back to back. And all of them either caused power outages or damage or what have you. So it's been an interesting month. On the upside, though, my roof got an emergency repair just before the last storm, the last 2 storms. We were fortunate enough to get an emergency repair done, which meant they had to come in and lay down some new sheathing and lay down some new shingles and moisture barrier and all that stuff. That it's purely temporary, but it's enough to protect the house for the time being. So found out yesterday that the insurance company has approved everything. So we are good to go. They are going to go ahead and do a major repair, but it'll be interesting to see because we're one of 30,000 people that had damage to their roofs alone. I mean, there's been so much property damage. One of our neighbors actually had a tree come down and it broke the windows on the south side of his house, and it broke the siding, broke his deck, broke his, like it made a mess of everything. So although it didn't hit his roof, it just, the way the tree landed, all the branches just destroyed this back side of his house. So it made for an interesting holiday season. So there we go. I've got a nice little base coat on here. We're going to do something a little out of the ordinary with this. We're going to do a rust look. We're going to make this look rusty. Now, the first thing that I do is I'm going to take a little bit of thin asphaltum, and we're going to do a simple shading all the way around this mug. It's a float of thinned asphaltum. It's not very dark, but it's just enough to sort of give this a little bit of shape. And we're establishing some shadows underneath those flowers. Again, you can see this is not neat and tidy and perfect floats. These are just to get some color in there. So I'm going to put a shadow along the back side of the handle, like so. And a little bit here. And I won't deepen this underneath this, where the flowers would overlap. There we go. And I'm going to let it dry. And then I'm going to thin out the asphaltum even further, and then I'm going to put a wash of it over everything. And again, I'm pulling it vertically. So when I apply the color, it's going vertically like that. So still looks a little on the rough side. That's okay. So we're going to add a little bit of texture and a little bit of color to this. We're going to start with a color called Red Spice. You can use burnt orange for this, or you can use a number of different colors, but I like this Red Spice. We're going to add a little bit of Red Spice to this. It's a great color. It's this rich burnt orange tone. And I'm going to bring a little of that along the edge of the mug, just like that, right over top of the asphaltum. And along the bottom, like so. This is just such a great color. If you're not familiar with it, Decor put this one out last year, I believe. 2022, actually. Nifty color. And again, I'm using a little bit of that underneath and then on the handle as well. It's not neat and tidy. This is actually quite sloppy looking, if you ask me. There we go. Just a little extra color. It's just a fun one. So I'm going to dry that. And then we're going to show you something. I love doing this. I'm going to heavily thin some of this Red Spice. And I'm going to see if I can't get it to do it. I like to do this in drops. I like to make it run a little bit. So I've got lots of water in that glaze. I'm just going to tap a little bit so that I want it to run. There we go. I like it runny. I know it sounds silly, but it just adds to this, I think. And then when you get it so that you're happy with it, I'm kind of pleased with this. You can manipulate it a little bit, force it to do your will if you wish. The nice part is that because it's just water with pigment, if it goes too far for you, you can just blot a little bit. Like so. It's fun, this. And then you can just blot the whole thing, just to make it look a little more distressed. And then I'm going to dry this. And then we're going to start building some texture. We're really going to make this look chippy and rusty. If I can find my texture medium. There it is. Things have feet and wander away. So I'm working with a little bit of texture sand. This is in the media jar, but it is also available in a bottle like this. You can get it. Michaels carries it in this format, in the 2-ounce bottles. So you don't need a lot of this. So I'm going to use about maybe half a teaspoon. And we're going to put that on the palette. And then I'm going to add asphaltum to it. And it's about a 2-to-1 ratio. So I want 2 parts texture, or 2 parts paint to 1 part texture. So I'm going to grab a little more asphaltum. There we go. You want to be able to work with this. So you've got to mix this really well until you end up with what looks like a gritty paint. There we go. Nice. So just mix it until there's no more white streaks showing. And now the brush that I use for this, I use this little deer foot. I have a little deer foot that I like to use for this, but you can use any brush you want. Quite really, literally. We're going to pick up just a tiny bit on the tip of the brush. And then you're going to decide where you want to put it. Now, I have indicated it on the line drawings. So I have a little bit on the handle, a little bit in here. So you just keep it inside the lines of the piece, and then just let it blend out a little bit. I have another little patch here on the inside edge of the mug, like so. And then just tap it until you get, that nice little texture. So it retains that texture. It's going to feel a little on the sandy side, which is fine. I'm going to do a little bit along the bottom here. And you can do this in layers. So if it's not as textured or as opaque as you'd like, dry it and then put another coat on. So it looks a little patchy. That's okay. Patchy's okay. And then a little bit along this side here. And then don't be afraid to just put an arbitrary little patch wherever you like. If you want it to look really, really rusty, don't be afraid to put it wherever you want. I'm going to put a little at the top of the handle here. And then I'm going to dry this. Now, I use this technique in a few different things. I just like the look of it, especially after you've got layers of color and whatnot on it. It really does take on a really heavily distressed and rusty appearance. You can do all sorts of fun things with this method. But I really do like to come back in and make things a little darker, a little more opaque in places. Just like that. It's an easy method to get this. Yeah. I like the dripped look. That works for me. I like the rest. I'm a big fan of very heavily distressed things. I love that look. But that's me. Not everybody does, and that's okay. The nice part about this is that you can do as much or as little of this as you like. If it doesn't suit you, then you can do it moderately, or you could just leave it simple. Just, do what works for you. That's how I look at it. This type of heavily distressed, heavily aged appearance, that works for me. It doesn't work for everybody. So if at any time you'd prefer to do something a little cleaner, then by all means, you do you. So I'm going to grab a rigger, and we're going to paint in the lip of this cup before I forget, because we know that's been known to happen. And I'm going to do that with a little bit of lamp black. I've always found that once you start painting in all of these little details, then things start to become a little bit more cohesive. So, and I think that the lip of this cup is one of those details. So I'm going to base coat that with black. What is the name? I'm trying to look. What is the name of the color? Janet. Nailed it, Janet. The color that I mixed with the texture medium is called asphaltum. Janet knows. Asphaltum is like my favorite color, so I use it in everything. So I think my texture is dry. I know my black paint is dry. We're going to begin layering some colors over top of this. And I like to take some of that spice red, that red spice, and this is where I deepen things a little bit. So I go right over top of that texture with that red spice, just afloat, nothing over the top. All these layers sort of build up the look over a little time. So there's that little bit of spice. Love it. Kind of gives everything that, if you've ever seen enamelware that's been kicking around in a barn for ever and a day, and it usually has that, chipped look and those the bits of metal showing through. There's always, that little runniness of the rust where the water runs off, and it just gives it that patina. So I'm going to dry that real quick, and then I'm going to use a little bit of that asphaltum again. I'm going to start deepening some shadows. Just deepening some of these colors a little bit. So, over top of that red spice, I just love what asphaltum does for this. Just warms it up a little bit more, deepens it, tones it. Little asphaltum. Now I've got a little bit of that lamp black. Remember the lamp black that we put on the lip. I'm going to thin this out a little bit, and we're going to deepen the edge of that rust with just a little float of that lamp black. Just a little. And it's just on that textured area. And I'm going to do the same thing to this. Just a little float of that lamp black. It's not a perfect float. You're working over a texture. It's never going to be perfect. But we need a little bit of depth on there. Get up underneath there. There we go. And I'm going to dry this. Now we're going to use a little bit of orange flame, because this needs a little more oomph. So I've got some orange flame. If it'll come out of the bottle. There we go. We don't need a lot, just a little bit. I'm going to pick some up on my angle. And I'm going to bring some of that orange flame over top of that textured area. Just a little bit. And then we're going to heavily thin some lamp black. Don't want it so perfect. And this is where we're going to deepen. Ooh, a little too much, I think. There we go. I'm going to pull a float of that lamp black over top. It's heavily thin, so it's more gray than it is black. Like so. And I'm going to do the same thing to the handles. Now, all this does is just tone things a little. It makes things look a little aged. And when I'm putting it over top of this cup, I'm always pulling it vertically because that's the pattern that I established when I laid down my base color. So this is not perfect. It's not pretty. It's never been the intent to make it pretty. And then I'm going to dry that, and then I'm going to give this a wash of asphaltum. We're going to tone everything. So it's layers, 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 layers. And I do love layers. So float of asphaltum. Keep it darkest to the outside edge, like that. We're establishing a little bit of shape to this now. And we'll deepen that. Don't forget, whatever you do to the body of the mug, you've got to do to the handle. There we go. A little of that asphaltum over everything. And then, remember, that asphaltum has to come up over the mug. Again, vertically. Everything that you do has to be done vertically, because that's the pattern that we established right at the very beginning. So now we have this nice, dark and distressed looking mug. Now we're going to do something fun. Now, I'm obsessed with letters, numbers, lettering. So I'm going to use, I have this little set of alphabet stamps. And I'm going to, of course, I managed to not put them all back in the proper order. So I'm going to pull out the words, the letters for simplify. You can make it whatever you want, whatever your word is. I just thought simplify was mine, so that's what I decided on. Oh, good heavens. Now I've got stamps everywhere. So I have simp. I M E. Good heavens, why? F. I think I got them all. There we go. Okay, I think I've got them all. It'd be a minor miracle if I get it right the first time. So the stamp pad that I'm using is this one. This is from Supanico. It's a Stays On stamp pad. I've kind of fallen in love with this one. This one is called Timber Brown. And it reads very, very dark. But it also actually comes off looking more like an asphaltum than anything. So maybe that's why it appeals to me. So I'm going to stamp the word simplify onto my mug. I kind of like it when they're not perfect, if that makes any sense. I try to line them up, but I'm not really worried if they're perfect or not. S-I-M. I never get that one straight, ever. I don't know why. And F. Now, if you wanted to, you could paint these on. I just thought I'd simplify matters and use a stamp. So, of course, I can't do anything without utilizing a postage stamp. I have a thing for these for these things. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. If you want a stamp to not be on everything, so that if you want to stamp it on the mug, but you want it to end before it goes on to the background, I'll show you a little trick. I just learned this recently. I am not a paper crafter, so, and I have no pretensions of being one. So when it comes to working with stamps, I have to rely on the expertise of others. So I use a piece of paper to block out the area that I don't want the stamp. And just made life so simple. So, you know, I bow to the expertise of others when I don't know what I'm doing. So I went with a couple that were heavily distressed. You can put them wherever you want, or not at all. If you prefer not to do it, by all means. You can do whatever you like. And it's the same with backgrounds. Although I used a check pattern, you could use whatever you want. If you prefer to put polka dots back there, by all means, whatever blows your hair back. I am good with it. I had a lovely lady email me before Christmas and asked, you know, she wanted to make sure that it was okay that you made a change to the design because she didn't want to offend me. And I thought, although it was very sweet of her to say that, but I encourage you, if there's something about a design that isn't you, even though you want to paint it and there's something about it that you would prefer to change, you will not offend me by any means. If you want to add a unique twist, your own twist to something, go for it. It does not bother me at all. In fact, I encourage you to make it your own. So I just think it was very sweet that she was concerned for my feelings, but no, I am not ever going to take offense when someone is inspired to do their own thing with one of my designs. By all means, you go ahead. So I've got my mug done. It looks a little harsh. We're going to fix that too. Sometimes things look a little too perfect or a little too dark and they just kind of don't work with whatever you're doing. So you have to make a change, and we're going to make a change to this. It's a simple one, nothing over the top. I'm trying to get all these stamps back in this bloody box. And one thing I did discover is that if you don't get them in the right way, they don't all fit in the box. So I've got to get them all in there the right way. Otherwise, I will be here till next Christmas trying to get it all sorted out. There we go. Stamps, stamps, stamps. I bet you I have 100 of them. No, I have more than that. Not only am I obsessed with colored pencils, now I'm obsessed with stamps. And IOD, or Iron Orchid Designs, has a whole bunch of new ones, and now I have to have those because, well, they're just really awesome. Like, I don't have enough stuff in this studio. So, I love it. I'm going to make sure it's completely dry, though, before I do this next step. Heaven forbid I should mess that up. I have this obsession, an absolute obsession with these cancellation stamps. I have dozens of them. So I'm going to take my extra fine sandpaper, and I'm just very lightly going to sand through the stamped letters. Just a little. Very lightly. And again, vertically, because we've already established that. There we go. And it's a light touch. I'm not sanding the heck out of it. Now, it's created, obviously, some vertical lines in the finish. And again, that's okay. I'm going to take a little bit of asphaltum and just put a light wash of thinned asphaltum over top of it. And all that does is just lightly distress that lettering so that it falls into that, again, that pattern. So it doesn't look like something that's stuck on there. And a light wash of asphaltum. Bob's your uncle, Sally's your aunt. And there we go. So we are ready to start putting in some of the floral. Now, I put that little wash of green back there just because we've got leaves and things in there, and it just sort of softens it. Otherwise, all of that dark blue comes screaming out from between those flowers. And we don't really want that. So I'm going to take a second to clear my palette. And we're going to talk about leaves and daisies. Now, daisies are one of those flowers. To me, it's just, they're so simple. And again, we're going to talk about my my one coat theory. I know it drives some people crazy, but I do a lot of things with one coat when it comes to base coating. So I'm going to start with this daisy here. And I'm going to use one coat per petal. And then I leave a very small gap between the petals. It's just a thin line between the petals. Just so we don't have to go back in and trace them. There we go. Now I'm using one coat of warm white for these daisies, and I pull each petal in one stroke to the center. So each petal will sometimes one or two strokes, but when I pull them all in the same direction. So any stria, any lines, any brush marks that remain in it lead back towards the center of the flower. And this just helps you in the end. You don't have to do half as much work. And one coat is plenty. We're going to be putting 3 other colors over top of this white. So quite honestly, having to have an absolutely perfect base coat is, in most cases, unnecessary because you're going to be putting so many other colors over top of it. That is not to say that it doesn't have to be a good coat. But it doesn't have to be fully opaque. And let some of those brush marks do the work for you. And then the center of the daisy gets just a little coat of white, like so. Neatness doesn't count, and perfection is to be avoided at all costs. I am a big fan of daisies. I love daisies. They're such a pretty and simple flower. And they're so easy to paint. I remember seeing classes. Almost every beginner's class was with daisies. At one time, everybody learned to paint daisies. You had to learn stroke work. And stroke work is all about brush control. As much as we often hear, stroke work being a style of painting, which it is, but when you see someone that is very good at stroke work, they have excellent brush control. And I look at Margot Clark, I look at Heather Rennick, I look at Linda Sharp. They have unbelievable brush control. They focus on completing the stroke, proper brush load, how much pressure, how much release. And it shows in their work. They do beautiful work. That they have this amazing brush control. And it's the same. People that start with Donna Dewberry's one-stroke program, if you pick up a brush and you start with her, that program teaches absolutely incredible brush control. learning how to move the brush to accomplish certain things. Brush control is very important in the decorative arts in particular, but it's important in painting, period. I've lost a daisy somewhere. It's all good. I'll find it. There it is. There we go. I lost the center of this one a little bit. That's okay. We'll find it. So simple little 2 strokes per petal, basically. That's essentially what I'm doing, is 2 strokes per petal. It gets the jobs done. And then that any brush marks or stria that are created in the process all come back towards the center of the flower. And so you end up with those little lines and details in the flower recreate themselves, essentially. Makes life so much simpler. We've got a little daisy here. Yes, absolutely, Denise. Practice, practice, practice. The more often you paint, the better you get at it. It's like anything else. It takes practice. And brush control is a very important skill set in painting in general, not just in decorative painting, but in painting in general. And so learning it and becoming proficient in stroke work and in utilizing those things is very important. And it just makes you a better painter in the end. Easy peasy. So as you can see, these are not perfectly opaque flowers, but they get the job done, and they will give us nice pretty daisies in the end. And I've lost a few petals in here, but that's okay. There we go. I paint daisies quite frequently. I love them. They're one of my favorite flowers to start with. And they are fun to paint. And if you like anything country, well, then there's bound to be a daisy in it. We have so much planned for the coming year. Oops. Kind of overdid it with that one. There we go. Daisies are just pretty. Simplify. I love the idea of simplicity. I was working on a colored pencil piece this week, and it's anything but simple. So when it came to painting a piece for today, I wanted something light, something pretty, nothing too complex. Had to be interesting, but nothing too complex. I'm doing a workshop on high realism in colored pencil, so I was really looking forward to painting something like daisies today. So we have daisies. Now I'm going to put, there's a stem to this daisy right here. I'm going to put a little bit of white on it. Same with this one, just because I keep losing them. There we go. And that will do nicely. There we are. So we have daisies. Pretty little daisies. And again, they don't have to be perfect by any stretch. And they kind of look a little wonky right now because we haven't put any of the filler in, and we're going to do that next. Now, when I designed this, I tucked in a little bit of, I'm going to very tongue-in-cheek call this eucalyptus. I know it doesn't look anything like eucalyptus. It was more the color that I was looking for than anything. And it seems to me we may have missed them in the pattern. So I'm base coating these teardrop shaped leaves with Floral. If you don't have it, desert cactus will work just fine. So there we go, a little bit of desert cactus, a little bit of Floral. I like this color. I was trying to think what was close to it the other day, and oddly enough, the color that came to mind is one that has not been in Decorart's paint line for a number of years. But silver sage. Does anybody remember that color? I loved that gray green. It just had this really pretty undertone to it. It was just a lovely color. So get a little bit of that silver sage in there, or that Floral. I'm going to tuck a couple in here too. A pretty tone. I think what I like about this one is that it has that cool undertone to it. It's very cool and very subtle green. Without being over the top. I think sometimes they try to give you a cool color and it tends to lean to either too much to the blue or too much to the green. It just never seems to hit that happy medium, and this one does. This Floral is just a very pretty tone. Now we have a series of 3 that go down here. I'm going to just paint mine in. I think I've done this one often enough that I can wing it. I just need 3 little leaves, and they are just a teardrop shape. Comes up. Oh, and I put my hand right in this one while it was still wet. There we go. pretty green. It's a really pretty green. I'm going to dry this real quick. We're going to get a little bit of that lush green or antique green. That's empty. I'm a fan of antique green. It's my favorite, I think. My very favorite green. Jan, we need one more daisy. I've got 6 in this. I know right now it looks a little out of balance, but we haven't done any of the greenery yet. And a little bit of that antique green. Oof. I'm going to move the camera up a little. There we go. So a little bit of antique green. And we have a bunch of little leaves and whatnot back here. They're just filler. But we need them. These little bits of green back there just sort of help balance everything. And we have 3 leaves inside here. One there. And as I said, they're just tucked in there to sort of fill space. So don't worry about whether or not they're absolutely perfect. They don't need to be. But we have leaves over here. And it is important that these guys get the attention they deserve. And don't forget these little ones. I like little filler leaves. They do wonderful things for a piece. They keep it balanced. So I think I've got almost all. So down here, I have 3 little leaves that sort of curl back onto our mug. Like so. So we have leaves, leaves, leaves. I think I've got all of them. Now we do have some blades. Some nice little thin blades that come off of this, and they're tucked in there too. And they are just, again, filler. Nothing over the top, but you can take that antique green and put a little stroke of that over top of the stems of our daisies. And again, I don't worry too greatly about necessarily the accuracy of some of these blades. As long as they are coming out and away from our piece, I will be pleased. There we go. So we've got blades in, they're just loose and just come out. Little strokes of the green. I'm going to dry all of this, and then it is time to start adding some detail to our piece. So I'm trying to make sure everything is dry before I do this next step. So the color that I chose to do some of the highlights on the greenery is this, just a little margarita. And you've probably watched me paint leaves far more than would be interesting, I think, but I'm going to use a little bit of that margarita. And we're going to put a float just at the tips of these leaves. Just a little highlight out at the tip of each leaf. Just like that. Nothing fancy. It's just a highlight out at the point of the leaf. Kind of U-shaped. So all of those little leaves get this treatment. Little float right at the tip. Nothing fancy. The same with these little filler leaves that are in here, inside the center part. Make sure you get a little in there. And again, these are not perfect. Just getting a little highlight at the tip of that leaf. Don't overthink it. So we've got that little highlight at the tip of the leaf. And we're going to use a little bit of plantation pine to add the shading to the base of the leaf. So again, using that plantation pine. I love this green, that darker green. I'm going to go to the opposite end and do the same thing. So I've got the darker value towards the base of the leaf and the lighter value at the tip of the leaf. Like so. And this kind of demonstrates one of the things that I say about not having to have a fully opaque base coat. Because right now, we're halfway done this leaf. I have 3 different colors on it. I have a single coat of antique green for the base. I used an opaque yellowy green for the highlight. And I'm using a transparent or semi-transparent dark green for the shading at the base of the leaf. Now, all of those colors work together and provide us with literally 3 coats of paint, so we don't really need a fully opaque base coat. So I'm going to dry this real quick, and then we're going to add some color to our daisies because we need to do that. And then we'll do something with that eucalyptus. So I get a little bit of Sunny Day. Sunny Day is one of the 2 yellows that I use the most. I use either saffron yellow or Sunny Day. If you don't have Sunny Day, use the saffron. You just need nice bright yellow. That's all you need. So I'm going to take some of that Sunny Day. I love this yellow for a couple of reasons. 1, it's a nice bright yellow. And 2, it's very opaque. It covers very nicely. So I'm just putting simple little base coat of Sunny Day in the centers of my daisies. This color palette is very simple. There's nothing elaborate about it at all. And I bent a bristle on my rigger. There we are. Now, I had a bristle on my rigger that was sticking out and it was badly bent and it wouldn't go back where I wanted it. So I'm going to show you a little trick. I learned this from a brush maker. When you get a hair that just refuses to go back in and it's getting in your way, pull it down towards the ferrule and you can cut it as close to the ferrule as you can, but just do it to the one hair. Don't try snipping it off halfway up. It'll just create more problems. But if you cut it off down low by the ferrule, it'll get out of your way and it'll no longer be an issue. So I have some nice bright yellow in there. I'm going to dry this real quick. Because knowing me, I will put my fingers in it. I've already proven that. So I'm going to use my small angled shader, and we're going to shade that eucalyptus. I love this color. This is Mermaid Tail. It's only about 6 values out. It's not, it's a nice dark teal color, and it works particularly well with this laurel. So we're going to shade the base of these leaves with this Mermaid Tail. It is a very bright teal green. I'm going to put it here so you can see it better. It's very bright. So you're going to blend this out because you don't want it full strength. So you're going to float the base of the leaf, just like I showed you with the others. We're just going to float the base of the leaf with that Mermaid Tail. You want the darkest value towards the stem. And it's a nice little U-shaped float down there. It's a great color. And it's just lovely on that laurel color. It just, same with desert cactus. I shade desert cactus with Mermaid Tail as well. It just has such a nice tone for those colors. And it's very rich. Gives you a nice rich shading. And I'm going to do the same to this one. There we go. So we have that first shading in. My purple scissors. Aren't they pretty? They're actually not just purple. They're all sorts of colors. They're teal, they're turquoise. These are supposed to be embroidery scissors. Though I use them for decoupage all the time. They're my favorite scissors. They're nice and sharp, so. And God help anybody that uses them for anything than what I have deemed them for. So once that float is dry, you're going to put a float down the center vein of each of these leaves, like so. Oops, that one doesn't go that way. It goes this way. Just to create a curve and a nice little float on each leaf. Just like that. Now that little float just gives them a little more shape, enhances that curve in the leaf. Gives them a little more definition. And I like the softness of it. There's something really nice about that contrast, that sort of cool contrast that you get with that floral. Now the highlight for these leaves, for that eucalyptus, we're going to call it faux eucalyptus. You're going to use a little bit of thinned warm white. And nice round float at the tip of the leaf. Just like so. It gives this slightly frosted appearance. Just this soft float of that thinned warm white. Just gives the edge. Oop, that one might be a bit much. There we go. I think that one might be a bit too much white. There we go. So that little bit of warm white just softens everything. Come down here. Now I'm going to dry that. And then we're going to do it again, but down the center vein. So opposite the shading, you're going to put a float of that heavily thinned warm white. That little bit of warm white does wonders, especially when you have thinned it out considerably. It gives it, mutes the other colors just a little bit. So I'm going to rinse out my brush. And then we're going to start shading our daisies. Now the first thing I want to do is those centers. I'm going to use that orange flame for the center of these flowers. And you can thin it out a little bit, but I want a nice bright orange at the base. Right at the base, the lower part of it, we're going to put that nice bright orange. I love orange flame for that. It's a very hot orange. And it's nicely transparent, so you can do some really nice things with it. And if it's not bright enough, you can always put another layer over top until you get that nice punch of orange. So we get that nice vibrancy in there. Now, for the most part, the yellow and the orange are doing a bulk of the work in this piece, because that's what gives you all of the heat, the vibrancy, and it's also what draws the eye towards the center of it. Because everything else is fairly cool and fairly muted. So we want that yellow that grabs your attention. So we've got that nice pop of yellow and orange in there. Hi, Nancy. Now, Renee is just out for a little bit. He should be back any time now. He's just out. He had to take Miss Mays out for her training session. And it just happened that she messed with the schedule today. Which seems to happen from time to time. Miss Mays is a handful. It's like having a toddler in the house. And she's teething, and she's losing teeth, and she's getting some grown-up teeth. Some are starting to erupt. Others are still falling out. Her favorite food these days seems to be ice cubes. Poor puppy. She's got a very sore mouth. So she's always chewing on gnawing on something. So if it's not us, it's something else. And she gives us little love bites. Her little baby teeth, they're so sharp. So, on the back side of these flowers, to give them a little bit of elevation, we're going to put a little float of Bahama Blue. I love Bahama Blue. This is one of my favorites. So we're going to shade the base of each of those petals with a little float of Bahama Blue. Just like that. And I'm focusing in behind the center of the flower. That's where the bulk of this color is going. And that blue should come about halfway up the petal. And it's just a weak float. And you can use it to separate some of these petals as well, if you like. But I love what that little flash of blue does for the yellow in these petals. It pops. It makes those centers jump a little bit. Look at that. Super easy. As again, I said that this was a simplified piece, and it really is, but I like this little punch of blue on those petals. Just gives them a little more shape and a little more definition. And look what we have here. Is somebody ready for a nap?
I hope so.
Renee's back. You were missed.
Oh, I was in the chat. I was chatting.
Hi, baby. Hi. Oh, kisses. Kisses.
He's a little calmer now.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, baby.
Yeah, we gotta work on the people reactivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still nervous around people's?
Well, not just nervous, but she's reacting.
Yeah.
But same with the cars and other dogs.
But she's tired because she's curled up on the rug.
Renee was missed. So was the puppy. I can't see any of the YouTube chat here. What's going on?
Hi, baby.
Oh, there we go. Welcome back. Yeah, I was in the chat for a few minutes. Checking up on things, making sure everything was running smoothly. And obviously it was.
It seemed to have, yeah. I wasn't talking to myself. That's always my biggest concern, that I don't realize that they can't see or hear or anything. So once you have that blue in there, that little bit of Bahama Blue, you're going to come in with a little bit of thin asphaltum. And you're going to float over top of that orange. Just a little. We're just putting a little float of it in. All it does is tone that orange a little. And then we're going to do the same thing for the Bahama Blue. Just a weak float. Just on the back side, so it gives this a little more depth.
I missed another donation.
I don't know.
Oh, I'm looking.
I don't have the YouTube on mine, so I couldn't see.
I'll check. A lot of likes.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you like. The likes are nice.
I don't see a donation here. That's easy enough to find. I just go to the YouTube channel and...
Daisies are so fun to paint.
We worked on center.
Did ya?
Yes. So now when she comes back with the ball, she runs past you.
Okay.
And sticks her head between your legs.
Ah.
So.
All in good time.
Need a lot more treats to get that one down pat, though.
Didn't have a big enough bag with you?
No, I ran out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Was trying to keep her focused on the ball rather than
Gotcha.
the gang of squirrels trying to egg her on.
That's always handy. So we're going to switch to a liner brush, and I'm going to start with a little bit of that margarita. So I get a little margarita. I'm going to thin it out, and then I'm going to add just a touch of warm white to it. I don't want to make a super light. I essentially just want to make margarita a little more opaque. So I'm going to ask Renee to zoom us in a little bit.
Sure.
Just a little bit.
Ah, there it is. Cheryl D'Agostino donated $20.
Nice, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Don't make her.
Of course, it was like 10 minutes after I left.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that might explain why. So I've got thinned margarita, and I added just a touch of warm white just to make it slightly more opaque. And this is the color that we're going to use to join all of these leaves. So I'm going to draw a nice fine line from this leaf back to the flowers. And then I'm going to connect the smaller leaves to it. And I'm going to do that for all of these leaves. They do not have to be perfect. As long as they start somewhere on the leaf, that's the only thing that's really important. Because that's going to establish the direction and what they're connected to. Otherwise, they're just sticks.
Just sticks.
See? And the same with these guys back here. It just creates a little direction. That's all. So, and then we're going to soften those leaves a little bit. And we're going to do that like this. So I start on the stem, and then I put just a loose squiggly line around the edge of the leaf. It does not have to be directly on the leaf. It just has to surround it a little. And then the two lines have to connect. But they do not have to be perfect. So what it creates is this, a nice soft ruffled edge to the leaf. And I do that to all my leaves. Do they have to be perfect? No. Do they have to be absolutely on the edge of the leaf? No. You can add a little flip or curl to the tip if you want to. It just gives the leaves a little bit more character. And it softens them. It keeps them from looking a little too rigid or a little too stiff.
Is she at your feet?
Yep.
She's probably snoozing.
Yeah, she's curled up right there. Having a nap. She looks so tired.
Good. It's not the amount of exercise you give a dog that makes a dog tired.
No.
If you can do both brain activities and exercise at the same time,
yep,
you will fry your dog out faster than 2 hours of exercise.
Well, she's fried, I think. Because she came in, she gave me a kiss, and then she curled up at my feet and went to sleep. I've got all those little curlicues and whatnot on those pointed leaves. And then there's those, remember those long strokes of those blades of filler that we put in? I like to put a thin line of that same green onto them. It just draws the eye up and away. Look at that. And it helps balance things.
I've actually been curious. Did Gizmo get a chair, a feeding chair?
Oh, Robin, I don't know. I haven't seen Robin in there today.
Yeah, she's in
Is
there.
she? Okay. I keep peeking, but I miss a lot.
Oh, you also don't have the YouTube.
No, that's true. I don't have the YouTubes. I don't have the YouTubes.
So I'm just curious if she actually went and got one of those chairs, and I want to know if it's helping or not.
So I've got all my little lines in. Now I'm going to take a little bit of that laurel. Remember the laurel? That's the color that we use for the base of these eucalyptus. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of that mermaid tail and mix the two together. All it does is add a bluish tinge to the laurel.
I gotta scoot this over a little bit there.
And I'm going to use that color to create the stems for the eucalyptus.
Apparently Linda's had a comment. Let's see if I can't find Linda. Renee, let Tracy know that a section of the pattern is missing.
I know.
Oh, you do know?
I do know.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. She knows.
Yep.
And she's probably going to fix it right away.
Yeah, I will. As soon as I realized it, I went, oh, crap. It happens. It had been a while since I had to sit down and write instructions. And I have them there, but I missed something. So we have daisies. So this is where I use my black gel pen. I love my gel pen. So at the base, nearest the flower, I put little strokes on the petals. Just creates a little texture in there. And then I like to go around the edges of my petals with this scribbly line. It's a me thing. I like this. I'm not sure why I like this. I just know that I do. So I do each daisy like that. Those little hash marks, those little lines at where it joins the center. It just adds a little texture to things, I think. A little interest. And I like to go around, scribble around the edges of my leaves, petals. So essentially what I've done to the leaves is I used the green on the leaves to do the same thing. Just on the flowers, I like to use my gel pen. Daisies are one of those flowers that I love doing. And I like this sort of squiggly, imperfect
Bunny leaves.
Bunny leaves. Who said that? Was it Judy Thacker?
Yep. She actually said bunny ears.
Bunny ears, yeah. Bunny leaves.
Bunny leaves. It's funny how you knew exactly who said it.
Well, you know what? I don't know what it is. She's teased me about that in the past, so I had a pretty good idea it was her.
If it wasn't me, it was somebody else.
Yeah. Bunny leaves. I had a complete and total brain fart. I couldn't remember Delta Arts and Crafts the other day.
Oh, no.
A minute ago. was trying to explain where you could get Americana paint and decor products in Canada. Found Country Bear and Stockade, all of the usual suspects. But I knew Delta Arts and Crafts. They're based in Edmonton. Great company. I've ordered from them quite a lot. Yep. But do you think I could come up with Delta Arts and Crafts 20 minutes ago? No.
Oh, if anybody's looking for a good tug for their dog, go to nobaddogs.shop. He's developed a tug. It's like a square, and yeah, I'm impressed with it.
Oh, that's the one from Tom's website?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one it's pretty good.
If you're not familiar, Tom is a YouTube personality, dog trainer. He's very, very good. There's so many nice things I could say about him. But his tagline on most of his merchandise and on his product line is "No Bad Dogs," and he's remarkable.
He is.
Yep, he's remarkable, and he really does create some really nice products for pets and dogs in general. And he's a trainer friend of Renee's, so if you're looking for something, go and check out his goodies at nobaddogs.shop.
I actually have one of his leads in my hand right now.
Yeah, you do. Renee's got some of his leads and some of his dog toys. And so to finish those daisies, it's really simple. I like to take a little bit of warm white, and on the highlight side, which is the brightest yellow side, I'm going to put just a series of little white dots. And I like to make sure that they extend past the center and out onto the petals a little bit.
Ooh. That is a subjective question.
What's that?
But if you're asking for my opinion on what are your thoughts on nylabones? Good or bad for their teeth? That completely depends on your dog. I'm not a fan of nylabone because it's technically just nylon. It's plastic.
Yeah.
It's food grade plastic.
But it's still plastic.
Yeah. I have my reservations on it. I have used them in the past. They're not a bad product, and I can't say yay or nay whether they're good or bad for the teeth. But it completely depends on your dog. If you have a breed that typically has softer teeth, probably not a good idea. If you have, say, a bully breed, feed it to them like Tic Tacs. But I'm indifferent, I would say.
I kind of like the idea of using a natural product as opposed to a synthetic.
Yeah.
But again, that's just a personal thing. That is, no judgment on the product itself, but dogs were never meant to eat plastic. Although this one,
we were never meant to eat a lot of things, but we end up eating them anyway.
No, that's quite true. So, again, no judgment, just a personal.
And that thing will eat anything too.
We've noticed that.
But it doesn't have a drastic impact on her. On her, really.
No, as long as she doesn't swallow it.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, food-wise.
Yeah.
Carrots, I'll take it.
Yep.
Eggs.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yep, she's good.
There hasn't been a food that we've put in front of her that she will not eat.
Well, we know she likes seafood.
Yeah, frozen shrimp.
Frozen shrimp. Right now, they're her favorite snack. What's the matter, baby? You can't get comfy? Ooh. Huh? Poor baby. Big sigh. I think her mouth is bothering her.
Oh, probably. I know I flung a couple teeth out of her mouth out there.
Oh, no.
Well, we were tugging on the ball.
Gotcha.
Playing, and
Did that little,
I know a tooth flew out because I saw it
yeah,
come out.
little bloody...
The little
Oh, that little one that's...
that little dangly bit.
Yeah.
The one on the opposite side is still there though.
She's been walking around with a loose tooth and she plays with it.
Yeah.
Pushes it with her tongue because it's annoying her. Poor baby. So, I've got what we were talking about, dogs there, and we missed something. The base of this flower here, I just used little dip dots of asphaltum to add that shadow along the bottom. And I do the same thing that I do with the light. I always try to bring them out over the little bit of the petals. Just overlap them slightly. It just gives the centers a softer feeling. So I'm going to dry this real quick. And we're going to tackle the foreground a little. We do have a little bit of highlighting and a few other little things to do, but we're going to tackle this foreground a bit. We need a nice big angled shader and a little bit of lamp black. It's not lamp black. This is. Just a little. And we're going to do this in a wash. Anything that I do with colors tends to be in a wash. And we're going to put a nice little shadow along the bottom of our mug on the background. We're going to bring it to about there. And onto the back. And this is just a little bit of thinned lamp black. All it's going to do is just darken this foreground a little bit. Because right now there's not enough of a separation between the background and the foreground. So we need to put that in there. So I'm just putting a light wash of lamp black. And then I'm going to deepen that shadow under the mug right here. It's going to come about 2/3 of the way. Just like that.
By far the best toothbrush for a dog is a frozen chicken leg.
Yep.
Frozen chicken leg. Just straight up, raw, not uncooked, frozen chicken leg. It is a toothbrush. It is at least a half-hour chew.
Yep.
And it cleans their teeth. It's good protein. Good, lean protein. Yep. But for heavy chewers, I don't know if somebody said it, but no hide. It's a vegetable-based leather. Really good, easy to digest.
Yeah.
And she goes through at least one every 3 days.
Yeah. She gets the no hide and she gets bully sticks.
Cooked chicken bones splinter. Raw chicken bones do not.
Yeah. So we're going to add a couple of little highlights to this mug. There's a little float of heavily thinned white here on the edge of that mug, and there's a little float here. And then you're going to do the same thing on the inside edge of this cup handle right here. Just a little. And then we have to put a highlight on the front of our mug, right in here. And I'm going to do that with a dry brush. Now, I'm going to grab, I've got a mezzaluna. Yeah, I do like my mezzaluna. And I'm going to grab a little bit of warm white.
Again, bones only splinter if they're cooked.
Yep.
If they're raw, they don't splinter. They'll shatter.
Yep.
They won't create a sharp edge. They'll literally just break.
Yep. So we're going to add a dry brushed highlight to the upper left of this mug. Right here. And I like the dry brush because you can pull it down a little bit without burying.
I think Dad's home.
Yep, Dad's home. She kind of likes my husband. There we go. So I want a light impact point right about here which is where the brightest part of that highlight is going to be. And then I'm going to walk it out a little bit so that it gets a little lighter as it goes along, or a little less so. So I want a highlight of about 1 inch wide, but I don't want it to be a solid mass. And it's okay if it subdues the simplify a little bit. So there is our highlight. And I like to take a little of that out the other way as well. So you can brighten that highlight as much or as little as you want. But I like a fairly bright stroke because it's going to match this one. At least match that one. It should be a little bit brighter. But there we go. And then don't forget the edge of this mug. You're going to have to put a light impact point there as well. So I do that with just a little stroke of warm white. And the same there because it is a shiny surface. But those little highlights are what make the difference on whether or not something has a smooth surface or a reflective surface. And I like that little bit of that little punch of light on there. It just makes all the difference in how your piece is shaped. So I'm going to bring a little more of that highlight in. I'm going to dry brush a little. There we go. There is our little mug. Now we have 2 little bumblebees. I did the dimensional ones on the original, but I'm going to do the painted ones on this one because I like them. Now I gotta do this. Find my line drawing. Now the little bumblebee that you see there, you can put those wherever you want. I'm going to have one out here. And a little bit of graphite underneath it. I usually do these last because I'll pick and choose where I put them. So there is my little bumblebee. I just need the general shape. I don't have to worry too much about the minutiae, all those little details. I think I have a bumblebee. I have a bumblebee there. And I think I'll put this little guy down here. I'm a fan. I love my bumblebees. I just like to decide once my floral is done where my bees are going. They don't necessarily have to go where I put them in a line drawing. So there, I have bees. And I'm going to base coat the wings and the belly or the bottom of the bee with a little bit of warm white. There we go. A little bit of warm white. I like warm white for the wings. The other reason I selected a bee for this is because it repeats the colors we've already used. So we've already used the sunny day. We've used the orange flame. We've used the white and the Bahama blue. And this just helps carry those colors around, but they have a slightly different image. So it doesn't become too heavy-handed. And the colors are used in a slightly different order too, so it makes a difference. So there we go. A little bit of warm white on those wings. So, bumblebees. Now, the instructions for painting these guys is the same regardless of whether or not you use the dimensional bee or if you use the little one that's in the line drawing. The instructions are the same, as is the color palette. So I'm going to dry these real quick. And I'm going to use a little bit of Sunny Day on the bottom. I put the warm white down just to give that yellow a bit more intensity so it's not fighting against all of that dark blue. Little fuzzy butt bumblebees. I love bumblebees. So there we go. A little bit of yellow. And I'll dry this. And then the bodies of these bees gets painted with a little bit of lamp black. So, and they're pretty simple. They've got a round little head, and then there's this little thorax. Their upper body or their thorax. Not rocket science, these guys. And I love bumblebees. They just make things fun. There we go. Okay. It's because Dad's on.
I know there was a bone conversation in here. Pork and chicken bones are not good for dogs because they splinter? If they're cooked.
If they're cooked, yes.
Our dogs would let us brush their teeth. If you can, great.
I saw these really nifty little tools. They were just like a fabric thing that you slip over your fingers, and they're embedded with like a teeth cleaner and antiseptic for cleaning their mouth.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a really good idea.
My daughter's husky is due in January 10th.
Oh my.
We are going to have a litter of huskies. Do we have to read your last rites now, or? That's a handful.
So I'm shading the belly of our bees with a float of the orange flame, just like I did with the centers of the flowers. We're going to use the same color palette. Seriously, I knocked over a bottle of paint and it rolled through the paint, through the palette.
Janice Reed is wondering, is there a reason why you like putting stamps on items you paint?
Yes, I like the texture, the visual texture it creates. I also like the sort of vintage feel that it lends things. And you might have noticed that I have a minor obsession with cancellation stamps. Minor. I use them all the time. I do love that sort of vintage feel, and so I have a tendency to use stamps quite a bit. So I've got a little bit of thinned asphaltum. I'm just going to put a little float of it over top of that orange, like I did with the flowers. I'm just toning things a little. Just a little. And now the fun part. We're going to add a highlight to the body and the head of the bees with a little bit of warm white. Very heavily thinned. We don't want this too strong, and it's simple. Just a little float. Neatness doesn't count. So, and it's on the highlight side, not on the shaded side. So, little float, head and thorax. Just gives it a little bit of a highlight.
My son has a husky, and he is so beautiful and well behaved. That's a lot of work.
Yes, you get a beautifully and well behaved husky. It's because he has a diligent owner.
Yeah, and his training system is consistent.
Yeah.
Huskies, Mals, Dutchies, because their breeds are super intelligent.
Yeah.
Makes them harder to train because they're so smart.
Yeah. Because they'll question you.
Yep. If they can think of a way out of your system,
Yeah, they will.
you have to readjust your training system to not let them get away with it.
So much like we did with the daisies, I'm using a little bit of Bahama Blue on the wings of the bumblebee, close to the body, just a little float, like so.
And your son has the patience of a saint. I can't. It's the howling.
Yeah, they're very
the husky
vocal.
talk. I can't.
Yeah.
Oh, it would drive me up the wall.
Nuts. Yeah. I can't deal with it. So I've got the blue on there. I want to brighten these wings just a little bit. I think when I base coated them, they were a little thin. So I'm just going to put a little float of warm white right at the tip of the wing. Just like so. There we go. That did it. And it's just a little float. Nothing fancy, just enough to brighten the edge of the wings. I don't need them to be fully opaque, but I need them to be a little brighter. There we go. So this is the fun part with the bees. I'm going to use a liner brush and a little bit of thinned lamp black. And we're going to give our little bee some stripes. And I do that with just little lines, like so. Doesn't have to be solid. And a little cluster at the butt. These are fuzzy butt bumblebees.
Oh, yeah, and the hair.
Oh, yes, don't forget the hair.
The husky hair. You can make a whole dog out of one coat. And they're a tri-coat dog. Get it.
Oh, I couldn't do that. That would drive me insane.
Oh,
I get a little nuts just with the two cats and one dog. The hair.
And she hasn't even had a shed yet.
She hasn't even had a shed yet, so oh my God.
Linda Sprouse is saying, Tracy, I just joined a new group for colored pencil.
Yes.
It is by an artist named Bonnie Snowden.
She's amazing.
She is awesome and had a lot of lesson. You might want to check her out.
Oh, believe me, I have several of Bonnie's books. I'm already a big fan. Bonnie Snowden is amazing.
Mental and physical stimulation. Yes. Lots.
And lots.
Regardless of your dog.
Yeah.
Even if you have what is known as a lazy breed, like a Mastiff or a Great Dane, mental stimulation will exhaust them faster than physical.
Yeah. So the fun part about these little bees is that this is where I go in with my gel pen and I add those little details and the little squiggly line like I did with the flowers to the edges of the wings. These are not super realistic bees.
Oh my God. I have two Great Dane Mastiff Great Pyrenees cross.
Big and bigger.
And hairy.
Oh, Lord.
Just the Great Pyrenees on its own.
Yeah. One of our neighbors has a Pyrenees over here. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, he's beautiful, though.
He is beautiful. And he's so sweet.
It's the hair, though.
That hair. I have with the two cats, and Dot was not a big shedder, but my God.
That's a hell of a mix.
Yeah.
Dane Mastiff Pyrenees.
So big and bigger.
Bigger and biggest and hairiest.
Yep.
You got two short hair breeds and ugh.
Okay, so I got my bees done. Little outlines. I've added little highlights to them. Made them look fuzzy butt because I like fuzzy butt bumblebees. I like the fact that these guys are not perfect. I like the imperfections.
120 pounds of sweetness.
Yeah, sweetness. Oh, I have no doubt about that because Danes are like that.
Oh, Danes are gentle giants.
Yeah.
Mind you, Mastiffs are too.
Yeah. But intimidating.
They are a scary dog.
Yep.
Something about not being able to see their eyes.
Yeah, because you can't read them.
You can't read them, and they're very... I always think, well, the Mastiff was bred for guarding the throne.
Yeah.
Keeping the throne warm.
Yeah.
That was their goal, was to be a lazy dog, guard the throne, sit on it, keep it warm for the king.
Yeah.
And if anybody came near it,
eat them.
Eat them.
Because they're big enough to.
Oh, yeah. They were also war dogs.
Yeah.
They were meant to take down horses.
Yep. And they could.
And they could.
So to finish this off, what I like to do is just take a float of thinned lamp black and darken the edges. This can be done at any time. You can do it at the end. You can do it at the beginning when you're doing all of that antiquing and whatnot. But I like to finish it off. It just gives it a nice dark edge, ages things nicely. And then this is also where I start adjusting a few little things, because I like to adjust once I have everything painted. So I'm going to come in underneath my daisy with a little bit of thin asphaltum. Just a little. And the same with these eucalyptus leaves. I'm going to put a little float in there just to give them a little elevation. And I also like to come in and darken a few things. So if you've got anything that is perhaps this, this shadow isn't quite as dark as you would like it to be, this is where you can deepen those things. And it just makes all the difference. You can adjust all these little shadows now. So you give them a little tweak, not a big deal. So there's my mug. I think I'm happy with that. Now, in order to make this really vintagey feeling, you gotta spatter. I know everybody was wondering when that was going to happen.
I'm going to zoom out a bit here so they can see the...
So this is enamelware, this little mug, so it needs a little spatter of lamp black just to give it a little more age. And then you can just give it a little light spatter everywhere else. Because you can.
You make it look so simple.
That's the whole idea.
Simplicity.
And then a little spatter of thinned warm white. I like to do this controlled because it's a dark surface. If you get too heavy-handed with the white, it gets to be too much. So I want a little bit of white. And then a little rinse. And then I'm going to grab some asphaltum because I can. A little thinned asphaltum for this. And we'll spatter a little asphaltum on. Like so. I like asphaltum. I know, hard to believe. There we go. And I'm going to dry this. Now, to finish this off completely, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to dry it first. Make sure everything's nice and dry.
I had a roommate in Winnipeg a long time ago. He had a German Shepherd and a Cane Corso Mastiff cross. That was Gretchen and Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
Or no, what was the dog?
Gretchen.
Gretchen was the German Shepherd.
Yeah.
I cannot remember. He was such a good dog, though.
So I'm using a white gel pen just to put my scribblature in the corner. I'm going to dry it. Now to finish it, 1 to 3 coats, light coats of Decor Art matte spray just to finish it off. I think this one would be really cute, framed. And I happen to have a frame with a nice simple mat that it might just find its way into.
Does the sand wear the brushes down faster?
If you use it on the daily, but make sure you clean your brush thoroughly afterwards and it'll be fine.
The sand?
Yeah, the texture sand we used for the rust.
Oh, okay. I wasn't here for that.
It will if you use the same brush repeatedly and are heavy-handed with it, but for this application, no, it's fine.
Renee, what do you think the smartest breed? Malinois. It has been dubbed the smartest dog breed. Belgian Shepherd. Yeah. Before it used to be the Border Collie.
Yeah. Well, Border Collies are still really smart.
Oh, too. Yeah. God, they're dangerously smart.
Yes. Yes, they are.
But Belgian Malinois, in my opinion, is one of the smartest dogs out there.
Again, too smart for their own good.
A very close second would be the Border Collie and the Dutch Shepherd. You good?
Yeah.
All right, let's switch to canvas. I gotta get the.
This one is so much fun to paint. So much fun to paint.
I need the wheel.
So Renee is going to grab all of the names for everybody that has been joining us today. And he's going to pop them up on the wheel of names. We have 3 really nice giveaways today. The giveaway contains one of my newest patterns. It also contains a stencil, courtesy of the Stencil Studio. You have some wonderful stuff in there from Tombow USA. There's one of my beautiful mechanical pencils and a Knock eraser, which is one of my favorites, especially for cleaning up graphite lines and whatnot. It is a fantastic eraser and it's small. You can get into the little spaces with it. It's great. So there's one of those in there. Plus there is a nice brush set of Dynasty Faux Squirrel in there as well. So total value of it is over $50. Which is really nice. Your Debbie's body is crossed. I just saw that. Oh my goodness, there's a pile of names on there today.
Yeah. Yes, there is. There's at least, I think it was 219 names.
Nice. On the wheel. Very nice.
Which is pretty good since there's 240 of y'all here.
Wow. That's impressive.
Not bad, not bad.
Bunny.
I need a pen.
You do. There should be one in your.
Oh, there's in my skull.
In your skull, yes. My skull.
Your skull. If I can get it.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed this. I'm looking to incorporate a few more unusual techniques. The other thing I'm looking forward to incorporating into some of my designs is some color pencil as well. I've learned so much about color pencils and how they can be used in the last 3 years. It's mind-boggling.
It hurts.
It hurts. So I'm really anxious to start incorporating some more of that into my design work. So I'm really glad you guys enjoyed this. I wasn't at all sure how they were going to take this color palette, but I'm glad that you liked it.
Yeah, I'm going to click the shuffle button a bit here. All right.
All right. I think he's ready to spin.
I'm spinning.
Oh, somebody looks excited.
Hi. Linda Giesbricht.
Oh, so we've got one going to Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Cool. Hi. Can you stop kissing my hand? Thank you. Don't walk into things.
Like the camera?
Like the camera. Don't jump up on Mom.
All these don'ts. Where's Dad? You didn't even come in. You came in through the cat door.
Yep.
Hi. Hey. Stop. No. I know you've got new teeth, but you don't have to try them out on me. No. Get down.
I gotta pull some names.
Oh my goodness. She does like to nibble, and she has a tendency to want you to come and play, and her come and play is to bite your arm. It's not hard, but it's like she's gonna take those teeth for a test drive. Look, I got new twofers. This one is particularly interesting, especially when the other night we had all three cats, or all three, both the cats and the dog had a case of the zoomies, all at the same time. It made life interesting.
And Susan Welshmeyer.
Donna Baker, she's a mess. Oh, yes. Yes, she is. She's a hot mess. That's it. But she's such a sweetie. You can't stay mad at her, I'll tell you that.
And
the last one for today is...
Your arm okay?
Oh, my arm's fine.
Right.
Yeah. It's been nibbled on more than once today.
Mappy Perlata? Perlata? Mappy.
So as always, ladies, make sure that you head over to the website, click on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner, and send us a message with your shipping information. We'd appreciate it. Makes my life a whole lot simpler. And make sure that we can get your parcels out to you in a timely fashion. For those of you that are still waiting on orders, please be patient. There's been such a backlog of stuff leaving. We actually did not have mail pickup for like 4 days. So things are coming, but they are slow. And I apologize for that. What else? We are going live again next Saturday. We're back to our normal and regular schedule. So next Saturday, your pattern will be up. Probably tomorrow afternoon. I just have to finish a few little things on it and fix this one. I realized halfway through that, like, wait a minute. It's missing something. Yeah, it was missing something. So, yes, I will take care of that and make sure that you guys get a copy of your new pattern. And thank you so much for coming back and joining us again. You guys have been amazing and so much fun to plan for. I'm glad that you guys are still enjoying coming back every Saturday and watching us. So we appreciate it. And thank you very, very much. We will have some video going up in the next couple of weeks, as well as a live when we head out to the shelter. So please keep tuned for that. We'll try to give you a heads up as soon as we know the exact dates. Life gets in the way. I'm telling you. It just certainly
Things come up.
Things come up, and a lot of them have come up, especially with weather. So, was there anything else I needed? Oh,
Happy New Year.
Website. Happy New Year. That would be first and foremost.
Because you didn't say it once.
Not once today. I think I'm Happy New Year'd out. We do have print patterns are all on sale, so go and check that out, because right now I think they're cheaper than e-packets. Just saying, even with the shipping. So just go and check that out. We have a new coupon code up as well. It's a little higher than usual, and it's at the top. The secret coupon code, you know where it is. It's at the top of the page of the website.
Ho, ho, ho.
It's no great secret, but it's just fun to call it that. And that can be used on anything and all things on the website. And we are anticipating delivery of a couple more shipments in the next couple of days. So hopefully everything that we are waiting for will be here. So thank you again for joining us, as you do every Saturday. If you don't follow my YouTube channel, please hit the big red subscribe button so that you get notified when we go live, which is every Saturday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Or if you follow us or if you don't follow us on the Tracy Morrow Live Facebook page, hit the follow button and join us there as well. Thank you again, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we will see you again next Saturday right here. Mwah. We love you. Stay safe.
Pet your dog. That one.